No mai haramai ki tēnei hui. Welcome to the Prosperous Napier Committee meeting today, Thursday 10th of April. It is a day of committee meetings for us, kicking off with this one first. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed on Council's Facebook page, and if we could all stand for our opening karakia. Tu tawa mai runga, tu tawa mai raro, tu tawa mai roto, tu tawa mai waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, hauni e, hui e, tae ki e. Well, as noted earlier, we have a full house, it would appear. I don't think we have any apologies, or if we do, please let me know. Nothing's come through. Great, well that one's an easy one. Do we have any conflicts of interest today? No. We do have someone coming to present, or a team coming to present as part of our first agenda item, but we'll just get through the announcements by the Mayor. Mayor Wise? None today. Any announcements from our Chief Executive? Does anyone have any minor matters that are not on the agenda to raise? Great. Cool, we'll just get our confirmation of the minutes done. If I could have a mover for the minutes of the Prosperous Napier Committee meeting held Wednesday 26th of February this year. Thank you, Councillor Crystal, and seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, that's carried. Right, oh well, it's my pleasure to welcome Nick Flack, Chief Executive, and Rochelle Ham, the Chief Financial Officer of the Hawke's Bay Airport Limited. This morning, it's Nick's first time in the hot seat in front of us as the new CE, so welcome, Nick. And I'll hand over to you guys to present your SOI and Nick to introduce yourself to the team. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Is that on? Can you hear me?
It is, yes.
Cool. Kia ora koutou. Thank you for your time this morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Before I get into it, I'd just like to take a couple minutes to outline some of my background. Before accepting this role as Hawke's Bay Airport Chief Executive, I spent 12 years in Christchurch Airport, and over that time had leadership roles in planning, sustainability, asset management, safety, project management and solar. Christchurch Airport is an airport that has diversified its portfolio over a number of years and has stable revenue across property as well as aviation and retail. And really looking forward to hopefully taking Hawke's Bay Airport in a similar direction where we have not only resilience in our infrastructure but commercial resilience long term as well. So Rochelle and I have got 8 slides and we'll track through them and ask that questions be held to the end. Our presentation covers the half-year accounts as well as SOI. Thanks, Rochelle. So the highlights, to summarise the highlights, in terms of operating profitability, the key piece there is that Air New Zealand's performance across regional airports in New Zealand, they've struggled over the first 6 months and continue to do so, and that has seen a declining number of passengers through our airport, which has flowed through to operating profitability, right from landing fees or passenger fees, as well as car parking and terminal retail. And at an NPAT level, the thing holding us in there is favourable declines in interest rates. And then in terms of capital development, our capital is concentrated on core operating activities across car parking resales, a new airport fire station, the delivery of our fire truck, as well as us taking on ownership of airfield lighting and upgrade of airfield lighting assets.
So just in terms of where we ended December 2024, like Nick said, we were really challenged with passenger numbers through the terminal, and they were way down, like around 6% down on what we had budgeted through our SOI process. We have spent quite a bit of time looking at our cost structure, where we're going with some of the activities we're doing, and actually tried to challenge whether we need to do some of the stuff to try and combat that. In saying that, Nick's right, we were really lucky with the downward trend in interest rates, so we still have the upside around our interest rate swaps delivering as planned, but that's only half of our debt, so the other half with the interest rate coming down has really helped us. The other key point there is that some of our key projects have been delayed in terms of still delivered, but not as early as we'd planned, so we've had a little bit of depreciation upside. So all in all, our profit is actually quite a bit ahead of SOI, which is good news, but propped up by mostly interest and depreciation, which is challenging. But we're still, after 6 months, 1.6 million profit after tax. So our equity and return on equity numbers are looking pretty good. However, our gearing has grown because we have borrowed to fund some of the airfield lighting projects. So that's a lot of the increase in that gearing, and we paid the dividend. So that's really making a difference there. So the key slide, half-year passenger numbers. So we are 5% down on SOI as at December. As at April, we're sitting around 7% down, just to give some flavour for that. And what this graph is actually showing is that the trend is down. I think it looks really bad on that because of scale, but the trend is definitely down. So we are planning to exit the year around 620. And our budget was 665, so quite significantly down on where we started. The other challenge, I mean, everyone's aware of pricing, what you pay to fly, and that's really impacting on our loads. So, I think this time last year we were talking about we had no capacity left in the routes. We were sitting late 80s, early 90s. Now, actually, in the last couple of months, even Auckland's been down around the 75 to 80, so well down, and Wellington's just 65 to 70. So, and it's actually Christchurch that's holding up our loads, but there's not that much service, so it doesn't have the same impact as Auckland.
Yeah. So then on to our draft statement of intent. Sorry about the small text, but I'll take you through it. So, as I touched on earlier, resilience is the biggest challenge that this airport currently faces. It's not just the where the brain immediately goes to climate resilience. It's resilience across our operations. It's resilience financially as well, and it's resilience across our airport infrastructure. So you see that washing through our business strategy and our statement of intent. And what we've done over the last couple of months, the purpose and our PO are the same as what you've seen in other statement of intent previously. But what we've done is inserted a section called our business. And if the purpose is our why and our PO are our how we do our business, then our business is what we're doing. So instead of continuing to box on as an airport concentrating only on planes, we've decided to pull it apart in 4 so that we concentrate on our other pieces of our business that make up not only the passenger experience but our commercial resilience long term. So just touching on them, planes, that's about how we find, fit our planes in and get future ready. So finding planes is how we partner with Air New Zealand and how we partner with Tier 2 operators and airlines to make sure that we've got the planes coming in and out of here to service this region. Then we need to go about filling them, and that's working with our regional tourism organisation, our events community, as well as our business to make sure that the planes are filled 85 to 90% of the time to make sure that the airlines that are using this airport are successful and prosperous. then we also need to make sure that we fit them onto our infrastructure and our airport in a resilient way with really good operational procedures and good social licence. And then finally, in our planes business, it's making sure that we're ready to have a conversation with stakeholders and shareholders around what the future looks like in terms of electric and hydrogen-powered aircraft, but also jets connected to Auckland to provide a better level of service than the turboprop fleet allows for. Then working through the other parts of our business, passengers, is about making sure that we've got a really good journey from park to plane or from kind of home to holiday that allows provides commercial resilience, but also a seamless experience from car park to terminal to plane. And then using our size as an opportunity and a benefit to carry out low regret innovation trials. So using technology. And then moving through the business, portfolio is around making sure that in 10 years' time, we've got a diversified revenue mix that we don't have now. The commercial resilience of our organisation is relatively low, given that we are reliant on one single customer that is having difficulties, and those difficulties are off hard years previously from COVID as well. And if I put myself in the situation that Christchurch Airport was 10 years ago or 12 years ago, they made a choice to diversify, and then throughout COVID didn't have any 6-month period where they weren't profitable. They returned dividends to shareholders in every 6-month period because of their diversified revenue portfolio. So that portfolio is across both property and using the 230 odd hectares of owned or land lease more profitably than what we do now, and particularly concentrating on light industrial land that the state highway network and our location close to port provides examples of opportunity for. And then it's also leaning into and executing a solar farm as well that's been announced on 2 different occasions or 3 different occasions, but never executed. And then finally, the final part of our business is profile, and using our profile to protect and to protect our operations and lead this region in terms of tourism growth and of the events community. And that profile is particularly important in making sure that bird and wildlife habitats are not developed close to airports, and that noise environments or residential development isn't carried out close to airfield, so that reverse sensitivities don't eventuate. And I'm aware that Madam Chair's outlined that you've got a full day of meetings, and one of them is discussing Ahuriri Regional Park, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to provide the view of the airport, and that we don't support the regional park in its current form, given the significant amount of wetlands that will be created at the end of the operating runway. Our bird strike incident rate is currently 25 strikes per 10,000 movements. The New Zealand average is 4, and in my 8 weeks as Chief Executive of this airport, I've had more visits from Air New Zealand than in the 12 years at Christchurch Airport because of bird strike incident. And if we continue to develop wetlands and provide or increase the risk of bird strike at this airport, Air New Zealand will reduce capacity, and we will be left without connection to regions in New Zealand. That's all from that slide, and then we'll talk about passenger outlook.
So in terms of the SOI, I guess the trend continues off where we're at this year. So this really recognises all the things that we've talked about before around Air New Zealand's fleet issues. So grounding, yes, we got a new ATR, but they grounded another ATR, so really no net increase into the network. So looking off all capacity schedules, we're looking at 625,000 pax next year, so slightly up on where we think we'll exit this year at 620, but certainly not the growth that we would have forecast 12 months ago. The capacity on offer, we know that Napier Auckland is actually one of the jewels in the New Zealand crown. And so our goal is to really try and protect the service we have and try to stop any further capacity reductions. And that's also been impacted by the price of the fares and people just not, choosing to drive rather than fly, for example, or not go at all. In terms of financial headlines, how does that flow through? I think the point here is that we are in a pricing consultation with Air New Zealand. So we had a 5-year pricing period, which went from 2020 to it expires 30 June 25. So we're just renegotiating, and we've proposed a 3-year round rather than 5. And the reason for that is there's so much volatility in passengers and in what's happening out there that we actually don't want to lock in for 5 years at the moment. So at this stage, they've accepted the 3 years, but we're still in consultation. So jury's out at the moment, but these numbers are all cut off what we believe our pricing forecast will look like, and I think that there's potentially some opportunity that we'll work through before we finalise the SOI around what some of those pricing PAX rates look like. And to put that in perspective, Napier or Hawke's Bay Airport is sort of mid-pack in terms of the PAX rate. So we feel fairly confident that we're pretty much sticking to what we said we were going to do, and we're not expecting a lot of grief, but it's still early in the process. We've still got 3 months to go. So we are still looking to basically return a profit of 1.8 million. What this does reflect is the next round of pricing and sort of some of the wash-up aspects of that. And as we go through, with passenger growth, you'll see we get out to 682,000 PAX by June 28. And I think the thing to note there is how we've got there is we have applied only modest growth. So for next year, I think we pretty much didn't apply any growth. It's straight off schedule. And then we've gone 2% the year on year, whereas previously we would have been quite buoyant and sort of said 4 to 5. So we feel like the PAX numbers are fairly robust with the capacity we have at the moment, but there is a caveat there that we continue to keep that capacity. Yeah. I think the only other thing that really needs to be called out here is our debt does grow, and as a consequence, our gearing also sort of starts to grow. It's essentially because of the capital works that we've planned. So we're well into the fire station. The actual shell should be finished by the end of the year, yep, and will be fitted out early next year. So that's 8.5 million, but we also have some fairly major runway and apron resale works required and maintenance works required to keep our certification, Airway Civil Aviation Act certification. So that's pretty much the reason for the debt growth, but it's something that we are monitoring pretty carefully at the moment. In terms of capital, I probably did jump the gun a little bit here, but the key projects, fire station, which we're all well aware of, roading and car parking improvements. So we do plan to do quite a bit in that space. Our car park is slowly improving, and we will continue that work until we're there. We've got some stormwater works planned just to sort of continue on with our resilience projects, 600k, and then the apron runway improvements that I just talked about.
So thank you. So in summary, as I've outlined, our challenge is resilience in climate, but also infrastructure, operational and commercial. And this means that we need to focus as a business on our 4 parts: finding and filling planes, providing a passenger journey that is safe, intuitive and commercial, diversifying our revenue through the developments that we've got planned, and using our profile to protect our long-term operations. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. I'm happy to kick off questions. I'm just going to open with something that we've seen a bit of in the papers recently around the potential shareholding for Mana Ahuriri. Just wanting to get an idea of what is the pathway, where to from here?
Thank you. So mana ahuriri have two roles, mana whenua and potential shareholder. We have, or in my tenure in 8 weeks, I've had something like 4 meetings with them as mana whenua, and have got a really active and close alignment there. In terms of their potential shareholding, the Herald article that came out a couple of weeks ago, and that provided no new news. So we all know that they've got an option to take on Treasury shares. There's an agreed value, and mana ahuriri are working through whether they're going to choose to do that or not, and we await their decision. In terms of my role as Chief Executive, it doesn't change. I'm still here to operate a successful and safe and secure airport, and I concentrate on doing that. But just to confirm that article a couple of weeks ago, nothing has changed in my mind from that. That it's been a process for longer than I've been here, 2 years.
Kia ora, thank you, Nick. Open to everyone else. Welcome questions. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, thank you, Nick, for the report. Thank you, Rochelle. Just in terms of tourism growth, is there any intention in the future to invest in extending the runway for international flights?
I can answer that. We believe that the runway extensions are have been signalled in master plan for jet capacity, but it's very clear that jet capacity is to go via Auckland. I don't believe that this region has the size to sustain an international direct connection. And if I look at other regions, Dunedin, for example, they have got an international connection via Jetstar, but that is costing that council millions of dollars a year to underwrite it. And I think that we are more commercially focused than that as a region, and Auckland actually provides a really good point of service for international connections, not only to Australia, but the rest of the world.
Kia ora, thank you. I think that's a really common question and frequent, from around this table. So I guess the challenge to you that I would put is that if that changes, please let us know.
Yes.
And I would expect it to be a highlight in a future SOI if things are supposed to change.
It'll be bolded and highlighted.
I'm sure it would be. Mayor Wise.
Yeah.
Thank you, through the chair. Looking at your forecast EBITDA debt ratio, which is starting to get quite on the high side, and taking into consideration the potential sort of decrease in passenger numbers and therefore revenue, do you have some plan around having the ability to continue to service your debt if those other factors come into play?
I guess our focus is around like the levers we can pull straight away are the capital, like the sort of more, there's some mandatory sort of capex we have to do around retaining our certification, Part 139, and being able to operate. So that's the runways, the taxiways. But it's things like the more discretionary side of the capex that while we've got it factored at the moment, it'll be constantly under review as we go. So I would say roughly it's half-half. If we're looking to spend $8.5 million a year, there's probably 4 that is pretty much compulsory. We have to continue to do it, and of the other stuff will need to be commercially driven and have a payback, and that's how we will manage that.
Okay, and thank you. Just a follow-up question then. So you're confident you have the levers available to you, that you wouldn't have to call on shareholders to assist with any of your debt servicing?
It goes back to that jet ready question too, right? Because that is one of the risks. So we've got some initial works in this SOI to start getting ready. So we've done quite a lot of work around what that actually looks like, and it's quite a big number, as you could probably understand. So we will start doing bits and pieces that we can well and truly keep within our grasp, because that also opens up the opportunities for other competitors to come in as well. So it's about finding that balance.
And it kind of comes back to that question that I think I raised at the start, is where do we want to be in 10 years' time as an airport? So if we want to spend minimal capital and keep our gearing at 30%, the way to do that is just to do runway overlays and just have a functioning airport that allows planes to and from. But if we want to that functioning airport would then have its profitability subject to fluctuations in tourism and Air New Zealand's profitability or performance. But I think we all want to be as an airport as having a facility that's resilient commercially. And so we just need to look at our debt structuring as well as all of the revenue levers as well in the future, so that we bake in commercial resilience across those 4 areas.
And it's certainly something we're reviewing every board meeting.
Every board meeting.
Yeah, so we're doing 5-year cash flows every month, just to actually really, because it is going to be a big sticking point.
Yeah. But you're right to highlight that line, that gearing ratio line is probably the most important line on the financials to concentrate on how we get through it and how we set our business up for 10 years.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, you used the term the Auckland Napier route as being the jewel in Air New Zealand's crown. My question's around your ability to be an influencer and a collaborator. Do we understand the demographics of the users of that pathway? And if we do, are we actively, or are you actively working in that space to grow those different demographics? And then how could that be translated into some of the other routes?
Could you please pull your mic a little closer when you're asking questions? Thanks, Councillor Simpson. Sorry, guys.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start and you can finish.
Yeah.
We definitely understand who's travelling through the airport. We've done quite a lot of work, with our data this year around collecting a lot of demographic data. So we're monitoring, and actually we've done it again this morning, trying to understand, because all of a sudden our car park's quite full. So trying to understand how different demographics coming through is impacting on what we're seeing on the day-to-day. In terms of what we do with that data, I think Nick will probably talk to this, but we're certainly building and actively engaging with Air New Zealand on this as well.
Yeah, we are. But you can see it reflected in the passenger forecast that Rochelle outlined before, that between now and 2027, the passenger forecasts are relatively flat, because regardless of our ability to influence Air New Zealand, they simply don't have capacity in the aircraft fleet to increase passengers in and out of any regional airport. They're currently without 6 of their A320 aircraft. They've got 24 of them, and 6 are out of service. By Christmas time, 11 of them will be out of service. And Air New Zealand run a network of services where it sees them, where those jet aircraft aren't available, they're putting ATR aircraft in their place and pulling aircraft out of regions. And airports such as Nelson and Taupo, Rotorua, New Plymouth are all suffering significantly compared to us. So that's probably where the influence is. The influence is making sure that Air New Zealand have got flat passenger forecasts rather than ripping services out of here like they are in other airports in New Zealand.
Subsequent, is it?
Subsequently,
Yeah, sure.
or extend or seek an extension to the answer is, are you working collaboratively locally with industry or sports or whatever it may be to grow that sector and possibly influence other service providers?
Yes, we are. And so I've been here 8 weeks, and in that time have had 70 different stakeholder meetings over a 4-week period. So that's there's been a fair bit of time on the road talking to our stakeholders to make sure that we've got a strong tourism and events program that is promoting travel through this airport. So yeah, we are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Bogue, I believe you had a question.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I just want to pick up on the statement you made about Air New Zealand stating or threatening that they would reduce their flights if the Ahuriri Regional Park goes through. I did hear the submissions to the Future Development Strategy from the Ahuriri Estuary Society, who are really concerned about expansion of the airport and the threat on existing habitat of endangered species, threatened species in the estuary as it now is. But could you just tell us a little bit more about that conversation with Air New Zealand?
So Air New Zealand are there to run commercial but also safe airline. And if they're getting bird strike incident rates where they are, it causes concern from them. That's why we, in partnership with Air New Zealand, are trying to make sure that bird strike incident rate doesn't increase. That it's more than 5 times the rate of national averages, and it causes difficulty. You can see because bird strike has the potential to bring an aircraft down to the ground, and if that is the case, it more than likely injures, if not kills, people in an aircraft. And you can see that throughout the world in terms of bird strike incident rates and accident rates.
Just a future expansion on that. Are there any other methods of reducing airstrike other than removing or not allowing wetlands around an airport?
So I don't understand your question.
Well, are there other ways of other methods being used in other parts of the world to reduce airstrike? So, technology.
I guess it's similar to a health and safety conversation, right? So a health and safety conversation, you've got the ability to do hard and soft controls. So soft controls is procedures and that kind of thing. Hard controls is stopping the risk in the first place. And so my view, whether it's noise or bird strike, is the easiest way to stop it is to stop the risk in the first place rather than trying to manage it once it's been carried out.
In terms of things we're doing on the daily, though, to answer that question, it's looking at our pasture management strategies, and it's looking at things like bird bangers and, is there technology that is different to a bird banger, because they get immune to those as well. So it's about constantly working with, we've had people from Christchurch up, we've had Air New Zealand down quite a bit since you've been here.
Yeah.
Just to look at what other options there are. So that's an ongoing conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Crystal.
Through you, the Chair. So when you're talking about potential decrease in flights and stuff, we did have Jetstar here. Is there a conversation that they potentially could come back?
We are actively having that conversation at the moment, and that's as well as Tier 2 airlines as well.
Yeah.
The difficulty is that Jetstar, or the Jetstar group, New Zealand makes up about 2% of their passenger volume, and they've got the opportunity right across the world to deploy their aircraft. And whilst their position is better than Air New Zealand's in terms of their capacity, they don't have a great amount of idle capacity either. But we are having conversations with them as well as Tier 2 airlines about that very thing.
Can you use your microphone, please, Ron?
Oh, sorry. I am close.
Pull it closer.
My voice isn't very good at the moment. When they were here, our flight prices were significantly cheaper.
Yes, I would have to agree.
And so numbers were significantly more.
Yeah.
I think it opened up a different market.
Yes, it certainly did.
And what we see now is that at the prices they are, we're in a solely Air New Zealand market. Yeah.
Well, people drive, like you said. People drive because they can't afford it, especially a family.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Kia ora, and thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I'm really interested in your long-term resilience. I have a couple of questions around that. Yesterday in an HBRC meeting, there was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek question about when are we going to learn and when are we going to realise that we need to move the airport to Bridge Par. But I note in your document it says we are committed to the long-term future of our location. Just wondering, can you give a bit of an estimate around sort of how long-term is? In 100 years, do you think we'll still be there?
So we are planning to be there in 100 years. It's interesting that one of the things that I'm kind of blown away by, it's interesting you mentioned Bridge Par, because the first sign on the cycle trail that you see is a reminder of the decades of arguments between Hastings and Napier about where the location of the airport should be. And it's good to see that it's still strong and alive. But we're committed to the location that we're at, and that's why I refer to infrastructure resilience. We've got a significant amount of work going on to make sure that we will be safe, resilient, and operating where we are now, given the significant amount of infrastructure that's been invested in that location.
Yeah, cool.
And sorry, that coming from Christchurch Airport, I know just how difficult it is to even propose, let alone build a new airport in a different location.
And just looking at your objectives and key performance measures under place, I see that you're doing things like commissioning reports on groundwater and looking at risks, which we as a council do. Just wondering if you could speak to the level of collaboration that you already have with our staff and the data that we already hold,
Yep.
and sort of what it's like now and what you would optimally like it to be.
So that collaboration is very high, given that the person on our staff that is working on that works 2 days a week for us and 2 days a week for Napier City Council.
Brilliant.
So it couldn't be better, actually, the collaboration.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just going a little bit more on development around the airport.
Yeah.
You've made your point in relation to the regional park. That's heading, I'm not quite sure whether it's southeast or southwest or whatever the runway runs. But,
Yeah, immediately south.
to the other end, heading towards Bayview,
Yeah.
do you have the same attitude towards any development between the end of the runway and Bayview?
Yes, we do, and have had a number of conversations around with Mana Ahuriri on their station development proposition to make sure that even things like roads are in the right place, that residential development is outside noise contours, that wetlands are placed in the right place away from flight paths. So yeah, we share the same concern, north and south.
Thank you.
I have one further question. So obviously, the diversification of revenue is certainly a focus of for you. What plans, actions, etc.? I really loved how you did the whole why, how, what. So what is the what in regards to that revenue diversification look like from a commercial standpoint?
So we've carried out, over the last 10 years, I've seen numerous amount of studies from this airport around what their property play may look like. We've carried out a further study over the last 6 weeks. Our belief is that Napier currently is not serviced with enough light industrial land, and that is where we see property development occurring at the airport. And that's a slight departure from previous plans produced by the airport, but that's where we think that the market is at the moment, is in light industrial. And then the diversification in the planes business, is also looking at what Tier 2 operators have got to offer, and you'll see throughout the document charter services. So that charter services is about working with Tier 2 operators to prove the concept that a direct flight from here to Dunedin or here to Nelson, for example, is a commercial opportunity or has potential. We're currently, to get to Nelson from Napier, you need to fly via Wellington or Christchurch. And Tier 2 operators currently aren't willing to enter that market because they've got their own commercial issues, but also carry a low threshold or tolerance for risk as well. So working with them presents the opportunity to prove the proposition, and doing it around events like Art Deco at this end and Orientation Week in Dunedin provides the perfect opportunity to fill the across.
Great, thank you. Evelyn.
I've just got, kia ora, Nick, through the chair. One question is that how great is the risk of bird strike here in Napier, and how often?
Oh, sorry. So the standard measurement for bird strike is a ratio per 10,000 aircraft movements. So every 10,000 aircraft movements at this airport, Hawke's Bay Airport, there is 25 bird strikes. That compares to a national average per 10,000 movements of 4 bird strikes.
Kia ora.
Oh, sorry. So we're in the high.
We are beyond the scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Could you just describe to me what a bird strike is, what the minimum and what the
Oh, so a bird strike is any bird hitting an aircraft.
hitting the aircraft?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it looks like everyone's been really good at letting me know while everyone else is speaking who has questions. So it feels like the questions have dried up. But I will just open briefly for comments or statements to round up the conversation. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for the paper and the financials. It's really good to hear from the airport. I do just want to make a statement around the Ahuriri Regional Park. So I wasn't prepared to respond to a formal position from the airport in this forum, and respectfully, I think this probably wasn't the place to do that. So I am a little disappointed because the airport has been a key stakeholder as part of the technical advisory group through what has been a really collaborative process so far in the master plan development, and I just want to give you that assurance that that's still Council's position to work collaboratively with the airport and Air New Zealand and a range of stakeholders, as other councillors have mentioned, in the development of that project. So you guys have been a part of the technical advisory group for the project, and up until this point it's been really positive and constructive, and that ongoing engagement reflects, I think, a shared understanding of the value of that partnership, and something, like I say, that we are fully committed to. I do, just for the table's kind of comfort, I do want to acknowledge the importance of avian safety. And have identified, the project has identified bird strike as its key strategic risk. So that's on all the risk registers, and it was an integral part from the outset of the design of the master plan. So as part of our responsible planning around that strategic risk, we, with the airport's support, engaged an independent avian expert who has been fully engaged in shaping that master plan. Their advice has been clear and consistent throughout the development that the design will not include any open water bodies and will not attract bird species known to pose a risk to the aircraft movements, as well as being accompanied by an appropriate avian management plan. And I think a member of your team, Damien, has been involved in the discussions around that. So as that project progresses into a more detailed phase, we do remain committed to working with all the stakeholders, including the airport, to ensure that any risks are mitigated and that project aligns with the broader needs of the region. It's also worth possibly noting, there was some support for this rezoning in your submission through to the district plan. So there is a bit of a conflict, I'm seeing, in public statements. So that's what's disappointing, that I think it's come to this forum rather than some of those collaborative working groups and processes we're already involved in. So respectfully, I think a firm public statement that you don't support the project is really disappointing for me as the lead of that project, and I would welcome more conversation, more involvement. I know I've been out to the airport a number of times and met and I know this is pre your taking on the role, Nick, with your previous chief executive board, previous board chairs and members of your on-the-ground team. So I just want to give the table some confidence that this is a known strategic risk that is being actively managed, and I'd like to give the airport some confidence in that space as well. And hopefully that door is not closed at your end, because it certainly isn't at ours.
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It is not closed, and I do appreciate that the collaboration has been strong throughout the process, and look forward to that in the future. But I don't think I would be doing my job as chief executive if I didn't say anything.
Yeah, just point of clarification, not asking you not to say something. You absolutely have the right to do that. I'm saying I wasn't prepared for you to make a public statement around the viability of a key council project as part of your report, which is, it's not part of the reporting to us today. So I don't have the team here to give you some more information or speak to you in more detail about it. And I do note you have got public statements, for instance, during the proposed district plan hearings, which differ from that position. And I acknowledge that there are more conversations going on with Air New Zealand as well, and those are just coming to the fore, I think, more recently as well. So I think, yeah, there is more work to be done rather than putting a line in the sand.
Yeah, point taken, I agree.
Thank you. I guess that actually leads to my sort of summing up statement as well of the SOI. One of the things, obviously, that we all know around the table is that we're looking to shift our shareholding into the management of the CCTO. That will, I believe, represent us in a more commercially focused way in our relationship with HBEL. And when I looked through the SOI, the interactions that we have all seem fairly formal. You know, what's noted as quarterly reports and occasions such as this. I think, you know, given the conversation that's just occurred, there's a lot of potential and opportunity for those more softer interactions with each other and across many different forums. But when I was reading the SOI, I was reminded of some wise words from someone who came and presented to us once around the value in 100 cups of tea. And I think that, you know, this certainly illustrates the value in that approach. So we'll move to the officer's recommendation. We have that we're going to receive the HBEL Limited draft statement of intent for 25-26. I'm happy to move from the chair. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Mawson. I've said my piece. Would you like to speak to it? Would anyone else like to speak to it? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
To our final paper of the Prosperous agenda, can I please welcome Sharon O'Toole? She is going to talk us through the paper, which is the Procurement and Contract Management Improvements. Welcome, Sharon.
So the purpose of the report, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you could bring it forward towards you a little bit, thank you.
Better?
Yes, thank you.
So the purpose of this report is to provide an update on the procurement improvements that came out as a result of an internal audit report that Crowe completed in 2024. That internal audit report highlighted 11 risks, 4 high, 6 medium, 1 low. The improvement plan to address those risks was socialised with this committee last year in July, and this is just to provide an update on that. It's important to note that the improvement plan, while that was focused on addressing risks, we've extended that to ensure that we've also looked at how we can develop procurement as a tool to help deliver council's objectives and commercial strategies. It had 3 main pillars, we've called them, and one was around resourcing to ensure that we had enough people doing. The second aspect was around developing good processes, systems, documents, guidance and training so that we uplift capability and become more efficient at what we do, to ensure that efficiency was channeled in a positive way and we weren't doing bad things faster as well as good things faster. We've also looked at how to develop a strategy. So that was taking the pipeline of projects, the programme of work that we have at council, and seeing how we can bundle or shape or aggregate some of those things so that we can be more efficient around how we deliver those. It has been an extremely ambitious piece of work, so we don't have a dedicated team that are working on this. Largely, it's been supported by the internal team while we've juggled tenders and contracts for council. We have had some support, some small support from an external consultant, but by and large, it's been developed by the team. By and large, because we understand a lot of the issues and we've got the relationships within the organisation. a quick summary of what we've managed to achieve since July last year has been a range of new tender documents. While that sounds very dry, it's hard to get excited about templates. What those documents do is provide that we've baked in a lot more guidance so that users can understand how to be more commercial and aware and more considered around what they can try to achieve. So it's not just about being fast, it's about doing the right thing in the right way to get the right outcome. While those are 90% completed, it's important to note that that represents probably around 100 separate documents that have been developed. And by and large, not only have they provided those guidance, but we've provided some training and made our approach as a council more consistent. We're also looking at updating and in the process of updating our construction contracts. Again, what that means is more of a standardised approach to the special conditions that are used in those contracts so that it's consistent around particularly the use of bonds, retentions, the application of insurance, those kind of things, just to make sure, again, that across the suite of what we do, we've got some good guidance for users to understand what we do and when, both at the small scale and at the large. There's a new insurance guide which is about to be launched, which takes a risk-based approach to establishing what insurance is required and at what limits. We've put together guidance for evaluations, which was an area that was slightly problematic, not always well understood. So it's to help users understand when we get those responses back from suppliers, what process we should use for selecting the optimum outcome. There's a contract management guide also in development. The Crow internal audit was around contract management, and that highlighted areas. It was an opportunity for improvement. So we're putting that documentation in place. Often the focus has been on getting a supplier in place. This really shines a spotlight on, once that supplier is in place, how do we ensure that we get the outcomes that we spent all that time and effort putting in place. So it's where the rubber hits the road in terms of benefits. The guidance around GETS is really how we use online portals to advertise our contract opportunities. And again, it was a good way to ensure that we were not only consistent, but we could provide a little bit of information about the region and about the council and what's important. There's a contract register which is about to be launched in 3 weeks, and a conflict of interest tool. We've also completed a range of training, 2 of which were provided free of charge. So there was a half-day workshop that MB completed last year that was attended by, I think, over 70 staff. They'd offered it free of charge, really as an opportunity to work a little bit closer with local government. Most of the work they do is with central government, and that particular session is the largest they've ever held in any organisation. In addition to that, we've completed some contract training on the latest form of contract, as well as some evaluation training. So there's a timeline provided. It shows that we're not there yet, but overall, I think in terms of what we'd socialised last year, we are around 80% complete and well on the way to achieving all of those outstanding items in the time we had said we were going to. Any questions?
Oh, well, just firstly, congratulations, Sharon. I think it shows a real progress being made in this area, which obviously at the other end is about value for our ratepayers, how we're delivering and the outcomes that we're able to achieve. So I'll open for questions from the table. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a question on page 37 about the conflict of interest procurement tool that's in progress. Can you tell us whether or not it's a council-developed tool or whether it's an external tool?
It's council-developed. So we're looking at a SharePoint solution so that rather than have lots of forms being signed and going backwards and forwards, we can track, monitor and complete those forms online.
Councillor Brown.
Kia ora, through you, Madam Chair, and this might not be a question for Sharon, so I'll leave you to but firstly, Sharon, really well done. This is awesome to see the amount of work, and it seems just I'm really pleased that it's part of a suite of continuous improvement packages that we've got across the organisation. And within that in mind, this appears to be something that has quite a good return on investment for our operations, both financially but also staff culture and feeling like you're doing a good job at work. Just wondering, so you spoke about the fact that there's limited resources to roll this out. And I'm aware that there's a lot of change happening and there is an upper threshold around how much organisation can take in terms of change. But so just wondering, if we gave more resources, would we be able to implement this more efficiently and effectively? Or have we already tapped out at the top of that?
I'm wondering are you happy to answer that, Sharon, or was that a Louise question?
I can probably outline what that rollout looks like now, and then I'll leave it to others to see if that could look differently. So the short answer is it is a challenge. We have quite a lot of work on at the moment within the team to deliver the projects and the procurement aspects of those projects that are coming through. However, we have worked quite closely. There's a group called, I think it's Program Improvement Group. So that's a group that combines these initiatives with the EPMO. And we've been working quite closely together to ensure that the rollout of these initiatives aligns with all of the EPMO material. What we've tended to do is target key focus areas. So rather than going big right across the organisation, the focus is to work with key delivery teams. So the programme delivery team, we've got them marked to have some training to talk through some of the initiatives that we've got. What we could do with some additional resource is maybe go larger. There's pros and cons around that. What we've tended to find is often, from a procurement perspective, the requirements that you have in the community services team is quite different to infrastructure. So by keeping those sessions quite targeted, it means that we can be quite effective in terms of the information that we give. It doesn't become generic, one size fits all. We can target it to those particular teams. It also means in those smaller groups that they are more open to share some of the challenges that they have and be quite frank and honest in those discussions. It does take more time from the team, but I'm not sure that if we had some external people involved in delivering that training that we would get the same feedback. So it's a challenge. You become a lot more effective doing it big and by getting somebody else to do that. I guess we would just need to determine where that sweet spot is to make sure that we've got the capacity within the team to do that and we get maximum coverage.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
I'd agree with Sharon and how she's responded to that. And I think you need to be quite measured in what people can absorb at any given time. So I think we could try to go a bit faster, but you need to be, people have got their day jobs to carry on doing as well, and they can only absorb so much training and change at any given time. So I think we're doing about as much as we can right now.
Anything further? Comment? Great, okay. Well, we'll go to the officer's recommendation that we receive the report titled Procurement and Contract Management Progress Report. Can I have a mover for the paper, please? Thank you, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Simpson to second. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, just through you, Madam Chair. Sharon, I think, it's an amazing job. I love your graphic where you identify problems, solutions and benefits. And if the end result is efficiency, doing things well, and effectiveness, doing the right things, then that outcome is what we're all looking for. So I commend you. It looks a very thorough and complex suite that you've developed. As you say, it's coming along, maybe 80% of the way there, but outstanding. So I'm more than happy to move, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I think this is an excellent example of expectations that both the council and the community have around our organisation becoming a knowledge-based organisation and about continuous improvement. And this is an exemplar of the direction within which we're having. So congratulations to Sharon and the team and to the staff that have embraced change. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly took all those sentiments. Would anyone else like to speak to the paper? That being the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
That concludes our meeting. We'll do a quick swap over for people and places, and swap places with Councillor McGrath.